Donald Trump's back in the office, his first move, raising tariff against China. While Biden and Trump rarely agree on anything, they share one thing: a tough stance against America's biggest economic rival. Tariffs were Trump's signature move, and Biden didn't exactly roll them back. Now, in Trump's second presidency, the tariff war is heating up again. But what if it backfires? You see, China isn't just the world's largest country, it's also the beating heart of global manufacturing. From the phone in your hand to the sneakers on your feet, there's a good chance they were made in China. Tariffs might sound like a great way to punish China's economy, but there's a catch. They don't just stop at the border. They ripple through the entire supply chain, hiking costs for businesses and eventually everyday Americans like you and me. So, is Trump's tariff strategy a bold move to secure America's future, or a dangerous bet with stakes too high to measure? Donald Trump's unexpected return to the White House marked a dramatic turn in American politics as he defeated Kamala Harris in a contentious election. This victory reignited debates over his aggressive trade policies, particularly his proposal to impose additional tariffs ranging from 10% to 20% on foreign imports, including goods from Canada and Mexico, and a striking 60% tariff on all imports from China. Trump's rhetoric framed these measures as essential to protecting American industries and addressing trade imbalances. However, these policies come with significant risks that could harm the US economy, alienate allies, and further empower China on the global stage. At first glance, Trump's tariff strategy seems like a bold move to prioritize American interests, but the potential for unintended consequences is enormous. American households could face steep financial burdens, with the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation estimating an increase in annual household expenses by over $2,600 due to these tariffs. Many consumer goods, from electronics to clothing and home appliances, are heavily reliant on imports. Companies importing these goods would face higher costs, which are typically passed on to consumers. For example, the Consumer Technology Association reported that tariffs imposed during Trump's first term resulted in a 19% cost increase for electronics. The ripple effects of these tariffs would also extend to US manufacturers. Industries such as automotive, technology, and construction rely heavily on imported raw materials and components. Companies like Ford Motor Company, General Motors, and Apple would need to absorb these additional costs, pass them on to consumers, or relocate production to countries with lower tariffs. Each of these options comes with significant drawbacks. Absorbing costs cuts into profitability, raising prices could reduce sales, and relocating production disrupts established supply chains. The National Association of Manufacturers has already warned that higher tariffs could reduce manufacturing output by nearly 0.8%, with job losses potentially exceeding 500,000 across the sector. And ironically, some of Trump's strongest political allies and supporters are heavily invested in Chinese markets, making his proposed tariffs counterintuitive. These allies include major business leaders and corporations with deep ties to China, such as Elon Musk's Tesla, which operates a gigafactory in Shanghai, and Steve Schwarzman's Blackstone Group, which has significant Chinese investments. The very people who stand to lose from these tariffs are among Trump's most vocal backers. Does Trump really have the ball to carry on with its promise? The challenges for US businesses become even more apparent when considering China's economic strengths. China's supply chain dominance remains unparalleled, making it difficult for US companies to sever ties completely. When the US imposed sanctions on Huawei Technologies Corporation, for instance, the Chinese tech giant responded by accelerating the development of its in-house chips, such as the Kirin series, through its subsidiary HiSilicon. This adaptability underscores China's resilience and its ability to mitigate external pressures. According to the World Intellectual Property Organization, China continues to lead globally in patent filings. In 2023, China filed approximately 1.64 million patent applications, accounting for a substantial portion of the 3.55 million applications filed worldwide. Another significant advantage for China lies in its control over rare earth minerals, which are essential for producing high-tech goods like smartphones, electric vehicles, and wind turbines. China accounts for approximately 70% of global rare earth production and dominates 85% of the processing capacity. Major players like China Northern Rare Earth Group and China Minmetals Corporation ensure that China holds a critical position in this supply chain. If trade tensions escalate, China could restrict rare earth exports, creating significant disruptions for US tech and defense industries that rely on these materials. The US Department of Defense has already expressed concerns over its dependence on Chinese rare earths for advanced weapon systems, underscoring the strategic importance of these resources. Globally, Trump's tariff strategy risks alienating key allies while strengthening China's position. Countries like Australia and India, which have attempted to reduce dependence on Chinese goods, provide cautionary tales. Australia's decision to ban Huawei from its 5G network strained diplomatic relations and increased telecommunications costs by 12%, as noted by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Similarly, India's restrictions on Chinese electronics imports raised costs for local manufacturers reliant on components from companies like Xiaomi and Oppo. Moreover, retaliatory measures from China would likely exacerbate tensions. During the initial US-China trade war between 2018 and 2020, China responded to US tariffs by imposing its own, targeting American agricultural exports like soybeans. This not only hurt American farmers, but also pushed China to diversify its suppliers, reducing reliance on US goods. In response, China strengthened trade partnerships with Brazil and Argentina, whose soybean exports to China surged by 48% and 32% respectively during the same period. A renewed trade war could see similar retaliatory actions, further damaging US export markets while strengthening China's economic ties with other nations. China's strategic responses to trade pressures also highlight its ability to turn challenges into opportunities. By leveraging its control over rare earth minerals and investing in technological innovation, China can maintain its competitive edge. Initiatives like Made in China 2025 aim to enhance the country's self-sufficiency in critical industries, reducing vulnerabilities to external economic pressures. These efforts not only bolster China's resilience, but also position it as a global leader in emerging technologies. For example, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers like BYD and NIO have experienced rapid growth, capturing significant market share both domestically and internationally. In fact, BYD recently surpassed Tesla in sales, a remarkable achievement given Tesla's long-standing leadership in the global EV sector. Data from 2023 shows BYD sold more than 1.8 million vehicles, while Tesla's global sales stood at around 1.3 million. Looking back, President Trump's tariffs on over $370 billion worth of Chinese goods during his first term had a range of effects, some expected and some surprising. The tariffs were introduced to tackle issues like trade imbalances and the theft of American intellectual property. However, the economic impact was substantial and often hurt the very groups the tariffs were meant to protect. A 2019 study by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that American consumers and businesses ended up paying most of the tariff costs. The study estimated a loss of $1.4 billion in US GDP each year. US consumers faced higher prices on goods, and American companies had to adjust their supply chains, which hurt profits. One of the groups most affected by these tariffs was US farmers. Agricultural exports to China dropped by a massive 24% from 2018 to 2019. This was especially painful because China had been one of the largest buyers of US agricultural products, such as soybeans and pork. Despite these tariffs, the trade deficit with China did not significantly decrease. In fact, the trade gap remained large, casting doubt on whether the tariffs were truly effective in addressing the long-term issues they were meant to solve. On top of that, China retaliated with its own tariffs on US goods, which further hurt US businesses. The result was a complex situation where the tariffs didn't fully achieve their goal of reducing the trade deficit, while causing economic pain for many American industries. Looking ahead, Trump's proposed tariffs are unlikely to achieve their intended goals. Instead of protecting American interests, they risk undermining the US economy while empowering China to solidify its global economic dominance. By leveraging its strengths and building new alliances, China could emerge stronger from this renewed trade conflict. For instance, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, a trade agreement involving China and 14 other Asia-Pacific nations, has already enhanced China's economic influence in the region. The real question isn't whether China can withstand the US sanctions. In fact, It's whether the US can handle the long-term consequences of these trade wars. As China builds stronger ties with its neighbors, the question becomes, how much longer can the US maintain its global economic leadership if it continues to isolate its biggest trading partners? The answer remains to be seen.